Hello everyone, welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. We're going to be checking out some new footage that I haven't shown before, and the reason for that is because, well, I was kind of stupid and I downloaded all the B-roll as it was being uploaded at the time, so I missed out on all of it, and I wondered why everybody else's videos had certain sections in it that I didn't have access to. So let's answer some of your questions about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I get a lot of comments about the same things, so I'm going to try to cover it in this video. First of all, with the low resolution you saw in the videos, that was due to the hotel internet, which was right around 12 megabits per second. The stutter that you see in the sim in the videos was not what I saw personally. I think it had a lot to do with recording at 4K 60 frames on an Atmos system that wasn't really designed for the setup. So that's the reason why there were some issues when it came to capturing the sim. Let's talk about some new features. Now, one of the biggest questions that people ask is, hey, I own all these 2020 products. Are they compatible with the new sim? The answer to that question is yes, and you are able to drag and drop your current community folder over to the new sim. It will all work. The thing is, anything that wants to take advantage of what the new sim has to offer will require that third-party developer to go in and make those adjustments. All the work to update to the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 platform will be easy to alter numbers and allow the new flight model to work with it. They said, in quotes, there's almost no work to be the same. All right, so let's talk about performance, and the reason why the new sim is actually going to run better than the current sim will. They have a brand new architecture. They're taking advantage of ray tracing. Before, the shadow map resolutions were just too poor, and that's the reason why the new sim has this new crisp look when it comes to the shadows. It will support DX12, which is a huge win. The install is much smaller due to all the data being in the cloud on demand, with world updates and marketplace airplanes that you don't use. The cache has been increased. You can increase this all you want, so you can have a massive rolling cache if you have internet connection issues. The current sim ships at about 100 gigabytes, and now it is bloated to 2 terabytes when you download all the world updates. So when you think about that, the footprint of the sim on your hard drives is massive. Using cloud computing, they're able to push out updates that are smaller. Bandwidth has been dramatically reduced across the board. And for all of you console users, Xbox Series X optimization has been increased, and they can get more memory out of the console than they could before. Some other technical things are talking about, remember previously they used Black Shark AI, and we talked about that a little bit, but Black Shark AI was too limited, and they haven't worked with them in years. According to Jorg, they're working on their own system, so this will only improve in the future. What they're doing is they're using AI to look at the ground and go, hey, what kind of ground type is this? And what 3D models or assets do we need to stream in to increase the ground detail? Jorg also spoke on the use of drones for 1 meter or greater resolution, and that is the way forward for capturing all of this new data. The sim currently has between 130 to 200 types of 3D trees compared to the classic billboard that we know and love today. Let's talk about the flight model. My hands-on time with the sim, I noticed a dramatic change in the way things felt. I wasn't the only one that felt this way. Other simmers did as well. I don't think it's translating across watching a video. It's something that you're just going to have to feel or get all your controls in order so it makes sense to you. Ground physics have been greatly improved. That I can tell you, I noticed that whenever I was taxiing around, when I was taking off, it didn't feel like the airplane wanted to slip on me and that the tires were actually contacting the ground. Another big one, there are improvements to the landing phase whenever the airplane touches the ground compared to the current sim where everything feels so rigid. So if we talk about grass runways in particular, when it comes to the current sim, things are not very realistic as far as soft field takeoffs and landings. If you've ever gone to flight school, I got my PPL back in 2007. This was a big part of the training. Another really cool thing is that the engines themselves actually have aerodynamics now. They added support for every wing and surface type that you can think of, including spoilerons and slats. So their approach to the flight model is using 4 systems including a wake turbulence model. We've talked about that in the previous video, but they're now taking a scientific approach to the new flight model along with pilots and test pilots. They bought a series of instruments. They can model acceleration, rotation, forces on the yoke measured by accelerometers, and airspeed. Basically, they fly the real airplane, they go back to the sim and adjust all of the parameters. Now, this is kind of a wild number that was thrown out during the Seb interviews, and some people disagree with them, but they were saying that the current sim, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, had about an 80% accuracy when it came to the flight model. They went back and improved them to 90 to 95 to 97% sometimes. They've hit higher than 100%, but it was never duplicated. To me, these numbers really don't matter. It comes down to, does it feel realistic? Does it behave realistic? That's what I care about. Jorg said it best. Is it perfect now? I don't think it's ever going to be really perfect, but it's better. There have been SDK improvements allowing third-party access to graphs and data to help make their airplane more accurate. So all of those instruments that they have added to the way they collect data for these flight models, they have now given that to third-party developers. So let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about Weather Radar. Weather Radar is currently not going to ship with the sim. Now, Jorg did say that it's doable. So in short range, they can do it. Long range, they can't due to a limitation there, but this is something they're actively working on. All right, let's talk about tornadoes. Now, I have been chasing storms and tornadoes since about 2011, so I have a huge passion in this field. If you haven't ever checked out one of my vlogs on a storm chase, you should check them out. Okay, so they have a lack of data that prevents them from knowing where tornadoes are going to form in a storm. So I kind of felt like this was going to be more of a mission-based thing, but hearing Jorg in some interviews talking about it, it seems like they're not predictive because they don't want to say, hey, this is where a tornado is going to form. We know this information. We're going to be giving this to the public as a way to say, hey, heads up, there's a tornado coming. But they do spawn where it makes sense. So are they going to work in live weather? That has not been answered yet. A really cool feature about the weather is that you now have a 24-hour historical data slider that you can move back. So if you miss out on some weather during the day and you get home from work, you can slide it back and hey, there you go. So the current sim is using MeteoBlue. That hasn't changed here with the new sim. Now the data is decoded in a better way. This allows more realistic turbulence and wind shear. The new cloud type that I saw was cirrus clouds, and it seems to be the only information out there. I don't think we're going to have alto, cumulus, and all these different cloud types. I think we're going to have what we have currently with an addition of higher altitude clouds. This doesn't mean that it wasn't improved. Oh, no, no, no. If you look at everything here on the screen, you can see the clouds have been improved by a lot. So updrafts are stronger now. Before, clouds were too thin and the sim relied on the thickness. This is basically density of the cloud. And that's the reason why we didn't get cloud turbulence. We didn't get any of that kind of cool updraft, downdraft motion from them. It's just because it was too thin based on the data that was given to the sim from MeteoBlue. With the new sim, Seb said he measured updrafts of 10,000 feet per minute. Think about that in a Cessna 172. I would not want to be in it. Okay, so let's talk about turbulence for a second here. In my opinion, I don't think the current sim does turbulence too bad. I use RealTurb, a third-party add-on that allows more realistic values when it comes to turbulence, and it also gives us that cloud turbulence, although it's not real based on the data that's there. But the missing component is feel when it comes to turbulence, and when you look at the panel in front of you and you see this thing jostling around, it feels annoying and it doesn't make sense to you, especially if you don't have FS Realistic to move you around in the cabin. You'd miss that feel aspect of turbulence, and I think that's the reason why people don't have a connection to what's going on with the airplane. Now here's something really cool. Seb said that the next step is to put computational fluid dynamics on the whole atmosphere 50 kilometers around the airplane. They have a working prototype of it. It's not going to be on 24's launch, but soon after, so that's very exciting. I got a lot of questions asking about the weather system. Hail will not be in this simulator. However, something really cool that is attached to the weather is that windshield wipers are now functional and will move that rain away. Before, in the current sim, obviously, it doesn't do that. unless you have a third-party add-on that figured it out. Let's talk a little bit about water physics. The current sim is using the same system as FSX. Now, this is something that Seb said. It's based on sine waves, and it's been removed. We don't have to worry about it anymore. The physics are using the same waves you see visually now. So now airplane wavelength limits matter. Basically, it's going to be very difficult to land on water that is beyond the limitations of the airplane, and it's impossible to take off in it now. So they redid the engine when it comes to ground traffic and seeing cars on the roadways. We saw some of that in the preview footage. I wasn't very impressed with it. I think they have a long way to go, but it did look improved from what we currently have. They even now have data for parked cars. Something I did not go over last time is that now, whenever you're setting up your character and you went into the section where you can choose the voice, you can now talk into the microphone with your own voice. AI will take that and it will make it your pilot's voice. So career mode is kind of a 50-50 deal when it comes to the reception of what has been displayed so far. And I've got to say, I think that nothing is set in stone here. It's like Jorg said, 95% of the people are in free flight and their expectation is about 20% for the career. Jorg said this will be adjusted in the future. They're waiting to see what the feedback is. I really think they're gonna probably drop the whole you have to be in a career in order to play the missions. Fun fact, Jorg did work on Zoo Tycoon 1 and 2, and here's something really cool. We talked about animals before and the new species that they've added. Rare animals are actually in the sim, which I think is gonna be really cool for you to go out there and try to find a rare species to get a picture of it. Maybe it's part of a photo challenge, or just to say, hey, I found this thing while I was out in the middle of nowhere. There's a current mission going on right now to get data from Antarctica, and Jorg is very excited about getting that so we can finally bring that continent into the sim. Let's talk about shared cockpit. Now, I currently use Your Controls, which is a fantastic freeware add-on that you can use today to go flying with your friends. Shared cockpit is not shipping with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, but they do have a working prototype. It's just not ready yet. Let's talk about the SKUs and the pricing. You can purchase the Premium Deluxe airplane separately now, and you can upgrade at any time within the sim. All right, we've gone on long enough. You've seen the footage that I missed out on last time. Anywho, that'll do it for this video. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. I'm very, very excited for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. We're getting closer. What, 8 weeks out? I'll see you guys next time. Take care.